Okay, so I just wanted to do a quick lesson to follow up on our previous grammar lesson. I just wanted to go over 5 kinds of relative clauses.
Okay.
The first one, by far the most common one, is the one that we covered several times. So we have examples like this: the shipment of X342 widgets, which we ordered last week, still hasn't arrived. If it's a defining clause, you'll use that instead of which. The product that we ordered last week still hasn't arrived, but in a defining clause, you can use both that or which. Remember, don't use that in this kind of situation.
Yes.
All right, that's no good. And if you're talking about people, use who. So Richie, who sat next to me in grade 9 geography, became a successful businessman. And again, if you need the information in the clause to understand who the subject is, then you don't use commas. The guy who sat next to me on the plane is a famous musician. Okay, so we've talked about these quite a bit, so I'm just going to move on from relative clause type 1, except to talk about some really common issues that result in problems. So the first common issue that I want to talk about is a double pronoun in a relative clause. So this is a situation that I see. Spaghetti, which I eat it every day, is my favorite food. What's the problem in this sentence that I've highlighted?
We have
Two verbs.
it is
I think spaghetti is not specific enough, so there should be no.
which spaghetti which.
No, and no. This is a pure grammar problem. There's one word in there that should not be there, that cannot be there.
Eight.
Yes, you got it. Okay. Does everyone understand why it cannot be in this sentence?
Because spaghetti is already the subject.
Yeah, so we've got spaghetti as the subject. Now, what's which?
The subject. Refer to
Refer related.
Well, so these words like which, who, that, what do you call them? These are called
relative pronoun.
That's it. So, pronouns are like he, she, it, we, they. So in this case, in this relative pronoun, what does this pronoun stand for?
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti. For spaghetti?
Yes, that's it. So which means spaghetti, and I eat it every day, so it is also spaghetti.
Yeah.
So that's why this is no good, because which already means spaghetti. So this is a big no-no.
So we have two words which represent spaghetti, right?
Yes. So you should have two words which represent spaghetti. Spaghetti and which.
Which.
And now you've got a third one here, and you got to get rid of it. Exactly the same situation here. My new iPhone, which I love it, is much better than my old phone.
It.
Yes. Again, no good. And one other variation on this issue is this one. Teenagers often wear baggy pants that they can impede their ability to run. What's the problem with this one?
They.
Right. Because that already represents baggy pants.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so that's one common issue. Comma plus that is the next issue. So here, my new car, that I bought last year has been in the shop 6 times already. Here, this should be which. Don't use comma and that. And misplaced modifier. We touched on this in the last class. If you're not familiar with the phrase modifier, modifier is any phrase or any clause. So subordinate clauses, relative clauses, preposition phrases, participial phrases, these are all called modifiers. It's a very general term. So misplaced modifier is a misplaced, like, dependent clause or phrase. Titanic was directed by James Cameron, which is a romance that takes place on the famous ocean liner that sank. You've got 2 relative clauses here. You've got this one, which is fine,
And which?
and this big one. Now, what does which represent? Again, which is a relative pronoun. What does which stand for here?
Titanic.
Yes. So the rule is the modifier, the relative clause, needs to go directly after the thing it's modifying. So it's got to go here. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You know what, I'll just do it down here below so that you can see both versions. Whoops.
We have to put comma after the relative clause?
Yes, because here, why do we have to put a comma in this one?
Titanic?
This Titanic is well known.
Okay.
Yeah, it's already specific.
Mhm.
So this bit here, the relative clause, is additional detail.
Mhm.
You don't need it to know what we're talking about, so it has to go in commas.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to the second kind of relative clause. Possessive relative clause. The customer whose order we lost is really mad. So Microsoft doesn't like this. I really don't care what Microsoft thinks. Okay. Whose is possessive. It's like his or her or our, but this is the relative pronoun version. It's like we lost his order. So if you're in a situation where you're using this kind of pronoun, his, her, our, their, and you're looking to transform it to a relative clause, it's going to be this version. And this is for people, this is for things. There's only this single word that you need to know. And again, we've got defining and non-defining versions. So in this case, the defining version, the customer whose order we lost is really mad. I read the whole thing without any pauses. But if it's specific, if it's Frank, then it's Frank whose order we lost is really mad. Pretty simple, right?
So does it represent his, her, everything?
Sorry, say again?
This, like the word WHOSE, represent, like, it's instead of his and her and he,
No, not who. This is whose.
whose.
Yes. I mean, I think he's asking what is the difference between who and whose.
No, like we can use whose instead of his.
No, you can't use it here.
Yeah, like, I mean, it is like a synonym to his.
No, it's a relative pronoun. You use it instead. So, okay, let me give you an example. This sentence here, Frank, whose order we lost, is really mad. What would be the simple sentences for this one?
customer is
Well, Frank,
Frank,
okay.
Who
who
lost his order?
why is Frank really mad?
he lost his order.
Well, we lost his
We
order.
lost. Yes, we lost his order.
Okay. Because it's his order. This is possessive, right? Like my bike, your bike, his bike, her bike. You have to use this form when you're creating the relative clause.
Okay.
Not who order we lost, but whose order we lost. And just a very quick thing that I want to caution you against is that it's not the same as do we, same pronunciation as this, but this is, do you know who is coming for dinner? Right, exactly the same pronunciation. Do you know who's coming for dinner? But it's a very different usage, right?
Yes.
So this is not the same. Okay, so let's combine a few sentences. The customer is really happy. We found his wallet. Let me give you about 10 seconds to think about an answer, and then I'll just ask one person. Safa,
Yes.
how would you combine these two using the same pattern and using a possessive relative clause?
If the customer is really happy, we found his wallet. Okay. The customer who's found his wallet is really happy.
What you said orally is correct because you could interpret it this: the customer who's found his wallet is really happy. This is what I heard you say. But this is short for who has found. So
Yeah.
whose can also be who has, it can be who is. So that's not quite it. Try again, Safa. Generally, look at this pattern here. It's his wallet, right? His order. Whose order we lost.
Wallet we found.
That's it.
The customer whose wallet we found is really happy.
That's it. So, not this one. Okay, next example. I'd like to thank Angela. Her help was indispensable in getting this project finished on time. By the way, what does indispensable mean?
Really important to it too.
Sorry, say again?
Really important, like essential.
Essential, yeah. Can't do without it. Okay, so the transformation that you're going to do with this one is a very common statement when we thank people. Okay, I'll give you maybe 10, 15 seconds to think about an answer, and I'll ask one person. Echo.
I would like to thank Angela, whose help
Very
just
nice.
change her to whose, right? So,
Yep.
if there's any change to the sentence?
Yeah, the rest is exactly the
Yeah,
same.
very same, right?
Okay, true fact. The Bay is the oldest corporation in North America. Its history stretches back to 1670. Okay, I'll give you 10 seconds. Dina.
Yes, the Bay, comma, whose history stretches back to 16,070, is the oldest corporation in North America.
Good. Not 16,070. 1670.
1670, yeah. And we need to put comma between two. Yeah, before is.
Yeah. Good. Niagara region is Canada's premier grape growing region. Its ice wines are a famous delicacy. Ala?
Yes, Niagara region, then, comma, those ice ones are famous. Delicate.
Delicacy is like something super fancy to eat, like caviar, for example.
Okay. Famous delicacy.
Good. I think you said this. Niagara region whose...
Yes, ice wine.
Yep.
Wines are delicacy.
Very nice. Whoops. Oh my gosh. Okay. Here we go. Any questions about this type? Pretty easy, right? Yeah. It's quite common, and it's really easy, especially because there's only one format for the relative pronoun. Okay, another super common one, relative clause type 3, relative clauses that start with a preposition. Often looks like this. We have to solve this issue first, after which we can deal with the other issue. What would be the simple sentences that this is made from? If we had to transform these back into simple sentences, what would they be?
First, we have to solve this issue.
Yeah, or just we have to solve this issue first. Both are, your version is okay too.
Oh, sorry.
Need help?
Like I should make it to the simpler.
Well, yeah. What's the second sentence going to be? Just a simple sentence.
Okay. After which we can deal with the other issue. Which we can deal with the other issue.
Not quite. It would just be after that, or after,
Okay.
afterwards, whatever you want. Okay. Let's see how we do on these combinations. This is your big problem. Next to this problem, that other problem is quite minor. And I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about it, and then I'm going to ask one person. Safa.
Okay. There is a your big problem next to this problem. That other problem is quite minor. Okay. This is your big problem. Other. Okay, we have a phone from them. Besides to this problem, the other problem is quite minor.
Kind of. You can keep using next. So what's redundant here?
Next to this problem,
Yeah, so this problem is redundant. What do we replace it with?
Issue.
Which
Which.
oh yeah, because it's repeated like 3 times. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Next to which.
This
After
is
which. Before which.
but next to which we will remove that also.
Nope. No, this is not a relative pronoun. This is like pointing. That one, this one, those ones. Right.
okay. This
So
is
it has to stay there. This could be the, or it can be that, but you need something there.
okay.
I sent out a notice about our new policy. People are responding to it positively.
All the luck and all the best. Love you.
Okay. I assume that was not for me. Okay.
No, sorry, it's something pop.
Okay. Let's do Dina.
I sent out an policy. I sent out a notice about our new policy in which people are responding to it positively, or for which?
That which.
Use the same preposition.
To which? To
Yeah.
which?
Which, yeah.
To which people are responding, I think, to, shall we put, we'll leave it? Because this, it's which, it. To which people are responding positively.
That's it. You got to
No
get rid of
need
both.
to it. Both, yeah.
Right, because which is the same as policy, right? And people, because it's respond to which people are responding. You could put the to here. Let me just give you the two versions.
Yeah, and we'll leave which without to.
Right, so there's 2 ways to do this one.
Yeah. Which people are responding to positively. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Echo. That's Kevin. I'm always having problems with him. This one's going to be a little bit different. Just a little bit. Because it's a person. Echo, your mute is on. Not sure if you're speaking or not. Maybe she walked away. Okay, Allah, go ahead.
Yes.
Back.
So I think we remove that. Like we make it Kevin, then comma.
No, you have to keep Kevin.
Yes, we remove that.
No, keep it.
Okay. That's Kevin. Kevin. Which I'm always having problem with him.
No.
Or that.
Oh,
No, it's
In these examples, we're starting with the preposition. What's the preposition in the original sentence?
Please.
with.
Yeah, so that's the with.
With whom, right?
yes, with whom?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And what do we get rid of?
With.
And him.
And him. So if it's a person, it's going to be with whom. I found our problem in the manual. According to the manual, we've been doing it wrong. Let's go with, I'll offer this one too.
Found our problem in the manual. I found our problem in the manual, comma, to which, according to the manual.
According to is your preposition here. It's a preposition phrase.
To that manual?
To which? According
To which?
Yeah. It's always going to be a preposition, or in this case, a preposition phrase plus which, or plus whom if it's a person. From which, to which, according to which, with which, after which, before which, sandwich. Ah, just kidding. Sandwich is not one of them. Okay. Echo.
This is a problem. As a result of this problem, our project will be delayed. This is a problem. As a result of which, our project will be delayed.
Good. Very nice. Okay, and I found a few quotes, and I pulled them apart into these kind of baby sentences, and let's see if we can put the original quotes back together. So Albert Ellis, kind of famous psychologist, people have motives and thoughts. They are unaware of these. Dina.
People have motives and thoughts, comma, people.
Remember, you don't always need a comma. Right? Yeah, like in this case, sorry, this is the problem as a result of which your project will be delayed. Okay, in many cases, you don't need a comma.
People have motives and thoughts. Of whom?
Whom is only for people.
These they related to motives and thoughts?
Yeah.
They are unaware.
Hmm.
I thought they're related to people.
Ah.
People have motives and thoughts of
It's, yeah,
which
motives.
are unaware.
Close. Do we keep they or do we delete they?
Delete
Of them?
You got to keep it. Of which they are unaware. You have to keep they because that's the subject of are unaware.
Of these. So this which it is instead of these
Yeah, it's
at the
instead of,
end.
yeah, it's motives and thoughts.
Of which they are unaware.
Okay, here's one by Charles Dickens. Reflect upon your present blessings. Every man has many. Not on your past misfortunes. All men have some. Safa.
Yeah. Okay. Talk your present blessing.
Hmm.
Which
It's going to be a preposition plus which.
every man has many.
To which?
Sorry, Ella?
To which every man has many?
Well,
Ways, right? Ways?
nope, different preposition.
That which?
Of.
Of
Which every man. Okay.
which every man has many. And what about this one?
Not on your past. Fortune.
Pronounced misfortunes. The this T, it's pronounced ch, misfortunes.
Misfortune. Which. Sorry. Of which I think also
Good. Mm-hmm.
all men have some.
Very nice. Men have many of them. Right?
Okay.
Men have some of them. That's why we're using of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if someone's got I don't know why I'm thinking of this example, but if someone has a car collection, this is one of my favorite vehicles, of which I have many. This is one of my favorite books by this author, of which I have many. Okay, next one, Blaise Pascal, French mathematician. Nature is an infinite sphere. The center of it is everywhere, and the circumference nowhere. Very deep, but we're just interested in how to transform it. Let's go with Echo.
Nature is an infinite.
Which? The center?
No.
Nature is an infinite spheres, of which the center it is everywhere, right?
Of what we have to get rid of it. Very nice. So here's a couple typical issues. We live in a society that everyone is different. There's a couple ways to fix this. Any suggestions?
Your society. Where? Or am I still-
Yep, that's one solution. What's a synonym for where?
Which?
Where in which?
That's it. In which is a synonym for where. Very nice. That's the town where I grew up. That's the town in which I grew up. Both are fine. Up to you which one you want to use. Oh my gosh, okay. Crazy Microsoft, okay. Here's another one more. I think Kobe Bryant is the best player in the history of the NBA, from whom I learned a lot of sportsmanship.
The position of preposition? أو
Oh, is it the place?
relative clause?
The place should be right after the corporate, right?
That's right. So what's this issue called?
It's called
Misplaced modifier?
That's it. MM. Like M&Ms if you like those candies. That's exactly right. Right? Regardless of the type of relative clause, it needs to go directly after the thing or person that it's modifying. Okay, this is called misplaced.
Misplaced modifier.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Relative clause type 4, starting with a quantity. So a couple examples first. We ordered 5 items, 2 of which were defective. What would be the simple sentence version of this complex sentence? Allah, can you turn this one sentence into 2 simple sentences?
We ordered 5 items.
Good, period.
2 of them are defective.
Yeah, good. Anytime you have any kind of quantity word and it's of them, this makes sense. Instead of 2 of them, 2 of which. And this will be, if you're doing writing task 1 academic and you've got a pie chart, 50% of which, 23% of which, 1/3 of which. Right? I tried on 5 different outfits, none of which fit me properly. Allah, one more time, what would be the simple sentence version of this?
I tried on 5 different outfits, comma, none of them fit me properly.
Period.
Yeah, period, none of them.
That's it. And when describing people, use whom. Because of this glitch, we've gotten lots of calls from angry customers, many of whom have threatened to cancel their service. So following the same pattern, Safa, what would be the simple sentence version of this?
Okay. Because of this glitch, we have gotten a lot of calls from angry customers. Who have many.
We're just
many,
changing it into simple sentences.
Many of them have threatened to cancel their services.
That's it.
them here, like many of these calls, them related
Customers.
to calls?
No, customers.
Customers.
Because the call can't threaten anything.
Hmm.
A person can, right? Many of them changes to many of whom. If them refers to things, it's going to be many of which. I still keep in touch with my university roommates, many of whom have gone on to have successful careers. And Dina, what would be the simple sentence version of this?
Yes, I still keep in touch with my university roommates. Many of them, again, but these them related to roommates.
Yep.
Okay.
There we go. So in these, you can use any word that represents a quantity or something like that. All, some, most,
Wait.
none, half, 2/3.
We cannot remove have.
Sorry?
Many of them gone on to have successful career.
If you got rid of have, you would need to change gone to went. Go, went, gone.
Yeah.
So it has to be have gone. Okay. So it's not just these single words. You can say things like the vast majority of which. Even the extent to which is the same type here. Basically, any kind of quantity word will do. So again, I found some quotes here. Gore Vidal is a famous literary figure, was a man of immense literary talent. Some of that talent he used well, some of that talent he wasted. How would we transform this into a complex sentence? Who wants to try this one? Go ahead, Ella.
Gore Vidal was a man of immense literary talent, some of which.
That's it. Keep going.
Yeah, some of which he used well. Some of that. Some of we can't say some of which too. Some of which talent he wasted.
Oh, you don't need talent because that's what which means, right?
Yes. Some of
So
which.
literary talent is which. All right. Money buys many things. The best of these is freedom. Echo.
Money buys many things. Money buys many things. The best of which is freedom.
That's it. Very nice. Okay, a quote by the former head of ExxonMobil. Let's go with Safa.
Okay. There is hardly an activity that a person can think about that does not intrinsically involve energy. Most of the energy is currently provided by fossil
Fuels.
fuels. Sorry.
Yep. No, sorry.
There is hardly an activity that a person can think about which does not.
That is okay here. So we've got this quantity situation, most of. That's where you're going to need to do this.
Most of them?
It's got to be the same pattern we've been doing.
Okay. There is hardly an activity that that a person can think about that does intrinsically involve energy. Most of the energy.
See, what's being repeated here?
Most of the energy.
Right, we've got energy, and then we've got energy again. So we want to get rid of that.
Most of which
That's it.
is currently provided by fossil fuels. Okay.
All right, any questions about these ones?
This is called the fourth relative. Well, what's the name?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
There's a lot of overlap between the fourth one and the third one, which is relative clauses just starting with a preposition. Because in a lot of cases, you can do something like this, and it's the same thing. Of which most this is also acceptable. The best of which could also be of which the best is freedom.
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just to make it clear to my mind. We said of which, like of, we use it to quantity, right?
It depends on the situation.
Okay, so when we use of which and to which, like, there is any rules for them?
It's not really a grammar issue. It's a vocab issue. Like, what is that preposition connected to? What is it collocating with?
Like here, for example, let's say there is hardly activity that a person can think about does not intrinsically involve energy to which most is current. Why we said oh?
Because most of it is currently provided by fossil fuels, most of the energy. So the same preposition that you're going to use in the simple sentence, that's the same one that you're going to use in this kind of relative clause.
Like, I'm not talking about the relative clause, like I'm saying, like, in general.
In general, you're asking about prepositions?
A
little bit not sure what you mean. That's a vocab issue.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
If you have any specific questions about prepositions, then feel free to ask them and I'll try and give you the best answer that I can. But there's not really a rule per se. IELTS considers the wrong preposition to be a grammar issue, but really it's prepositions collocate with specific words and you just have to know what they are.
Yeah, I get you. Like, I was thinking there is like a specific rule for it, but it's what you mean, like it's related to the verb, right? Like to vocabulary, sorry.
Yeah, and whatever preposition would be appropriate in the simple situation, it's going to be the exact same preposition in this kind of complex sentence.
Okay.
All right, and the last one, it's much less common, but super useful, especially when you're thanking people. So this is it starts with a preposition and it's also possessive. And it's almost always in this kind of situation. I'd like to thank my parents, without whose support this would have been impossible. Whenever you're thanking like your boss or a teacher or your parents or a sponsor or whoever, without whose support, without whose help, it's always going to be without whose help, support, assistance, guidance, trust, this would have been impossible, or we'll say this would not have been possible. Without whose guidance, this would not have been possible. Okay. This is perfect for speeches, perfect for thanking people. Janie was always grateful to her 7th grade teacher, Mrs. Firestorm. She first learned to write essays in her class. Oh, sorry. Okay, this is from the wrong place. Okay, forget that example. I have a lot of fond memories of Mr. Johnson's class. Without his guidance, I wouldn't have learned how to properly dissect cadavers. I don't know what possessed me to come up with this example, but here we are.
Just
Without
change,
those guidance.
Without whose guidance?
Yeah, who's sorry.
change the dot with period.
Whoops, yes. Without, and how do we spell whose?
WH or SE.
There we go. Okay, and this is from Gloria Swanson, famous actress. My greatest debt will always be to the movie-going public of yesterday and today. Without their love and devotion, I would have had no story to tell. Echo.
Without whose love and devotion, just change the dot to period. Without whose love
Yes.
and devotion, would have no.
And you, right. And it's, because it's her, you're using the possessive whose, right?
What does mean devotion?
Does anyone know this word?
Devotion, like you devote to something, like you contribution, like your effort or something like that.
Something that you, yeah, something that you deeply love, something that you're very close to. Well, you would say something like a dog is unconditionally devoted to its master. Like a dog would die for its master, right?
Okay.
Love and devotion.
Like sacrifice?
Like willingness to sacrifice. So let me just make a quick sentence here. Without, again, we see her help. She wouldn't have learned how to write essays. Okay, so how do we transform this one? Safa?
Okay. Jane was always grateful to her 7th grade teacher, Mr. Firestorm, without whose help she wouldn't have learned how to write essay.
That's it. That's it. Okay, so we went through 5 types of essays. I'm sorry, 5 types of relative clauses, and that's from most common to least common. Possessive, we use quite often. These ones starting with a preposition, we use quite often. Starting with a quantity, it comes up quite often. Not as often as the other ones, but it certainly comes up quite a bit. Especially for writing task 1, if you're doing academic, this could work for you.
Okay.
Okay, that's it for today. All I wanted to do today was cover these relative clauses. Now you are relative clause experts.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Have a
All
good
right.
night, guys.
Thank
Have a great
you.
evening.
Thanks.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you very much. Bye. Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Bye.